But a lot of these folks, you know, they do stuff to undermine the foundation of Black Americans. They don't like our history. They hate on our history. They hate on the fact, a lot of people hate on the fact that we're Black Americans, foundational Black Americans. We're the only people, really, we're one of the few groups of people who has stayed on their ancestral homeland for half a millennium, and we never migrated nowhere. We didn't bounce. We're some of the few people who can say that. Family, we are the few people on this planet who can say that. We've been on our ancestral homeland for half a damn millennium, and we ain't never migrated nowhere. We never left our ancestral homeland. See, when we talk about who we are and owning our lineage, we got to do that. We stayed and fought. We're the only people, one of the few groups of people that have stayed and fought on our ancestral homeland for 500 years. We've been on this land documented. And I'm just talking about European documents, first of all. Let's forget about, we can go into the Olmecs and all that even beforehand. But let's just go by the Europeans. We'll go by their standards. Since we're Afrocentric, we'll go by your standards then. We'll go by your standards. We'll go by your European scholars and the European explorers who came here and saw Black folks here and documented seeing black-skinned people here looking like the same people in Ethiopia, which is what they called Africa at the time. They saw dark-skinned people here looking like the Moors. These are their descriptions of some of the Aboriginal people here. So we've been on this land for half a millennium. Other groups don't even have that claim to fame in their cultures. You dig? Some bounced to Nova Scotia. Most of us stayed here. Yeah, some doesn't negate the reality that most of us stayed, nigga. Some of y'all went to Nova Scotia. Most of us stayed, nigga. Yeah, some people left. There's some niggas who done moved to China. That doesn't negate what I'm talking about. Overwhelmingly, we stayed. That was some damn Nova Scotia. Nigga, a handful of niggas went to Nova Scotia. Yeah. That doesn't negate the fact that most of us stayed and fought. Most of us stayed on our ancestral land, fool. Black Canadians migrated. That's a handful of niggas. That doesn't change the fact that most of us stayed. What kind of bullshit is that? That's just like saying black basketball players are the best. Well, if the Chinese basketball player, he good. That doesn't negate the fact. That still doesn't negate the norm. We stayed here. We've been here for 500 damn years. Other groups cannot claim that for the most part because they ass is bouncing as fast as they can to get over here with us. Most of them are trying to bounce and get over here. You understand? No other group can really claim that. Europeans can't really claim that because they were bouncing to get over here, leaving their homelands, especially in the late 1800s. So we have a very deep-rooted history. We have a deep-rooted history. This is why we got to get off that forgiving stuff. We don't forgive people who are attacking us on our ancestral homeland. We're not guests in this damn country. Our blood has been in this soil for a half a millennium. And these Johnny-come-latelys come over here and try to dictate what we're supposed to damn do. You understand? When we got people like Dinesh DSouza coming over with his little ass from India in abstract and just utter poverty. He came over here in the 70s and he gets with the white supremacists writing books on how black folks need to do better. See, we got to start checking people like that. These people who come around and get with the white supremacists. Dinesh DSouza, he gets paid by these white supremacist think tanks to shit on black folks, to talk about how bad black folks are doing. I get in his ass on Twitter. I'm like, Dinesh DSouza, how dare you say anything about black people, and you came from a slum in India, fool? You need to be thanking black folks for everything you have. You were a slumdog millionaire. You were living in a slum up until the damn 70s, Dinesh. How dare you come to our land telling us how we need to do damn better? Fuck out of here. Y'all up there shitting in the damn river, telling us what we need to do, and we help your ass get over here. We got to get folks right. This is why we got to understand our damn history. And that's why so many people have so much vitriol. See, people, you sit up and talk about your land and this, and y'all having the whatever ever parade, but you left your ancestral land. You left that shit and abandoned it, and we didn't. And there's a lot of vitriol. Y'all hate hearing about our history because we have a legitimate celebration for our history. We can talk about our history and see some of the riders that we've consistently had. We've had riders from day one to now, and we're still going up against these white supremacists. Because white supremacy is a global phenomenon. And we've stood up to these white supremacists consistently. We didn't try to go run and hide. We're standing up to them with a small population in comparison to the dominant society, but we still stand up to them. This is why when you think of people fighting oppression, you think of people here. You understand? A handful of black people went to Liberia. I know this. A handful. The colonization society, that was a big finesse game too. That was a whole big finesse game too. We're going to send y'all back to Africa. Let me tell y'all something. That's a con game. That was a con. That's why it didn't work. It didn't work. And remember, Liberia, Charles Taylor, he was CIA. They had CIA all up in there. He worked for the CIA. So the white supremacists, they've always had their hand in Liberia. They've always had a hand orchestrating what went down in Liberia. But understand what they tried to do. They tried to send black people back to Africa. But how do you know what part of Africa they came from? You just drop somebody off in a strange land. That's not going to work because culturally we're different at this point, especially in the late 1800s. Also, remember, a lot of black people who are classified as black are aboriginal to this land anyway. So you might be dropping off, you get a person whose ancestry goes back 1,000 years here. They probably had ties to the Olmecs or whoever. And you get them and drop them off in Liberia. Like, okay, what the fuck am I supposed to do? I don't know nothing about this. You did? Yeah, you just go drop somebody off, basically exiling them in a foreign land. I mean, that's not nothing. You see? We got to understand how there were black people who were natives to this land. People who were classified as black were natives to this land. When you think of a Native American, you think of a light-skinned person with long hair and all this shit with war paint on them. That's not how the original Native Americans looked. That's not how the real Native Americans looked. The Turtle Island natives. A lot of Native Americans damn near were jet black. If you look at pictures from before 1900, if you look at pictures before 1900, most of these Native American people were jet damn black. And they would hide the fact that they were actually black people. Just like with the Seminoles, they like to hide the fact that the Seminoles were really black people. The Seminoles were black. As a matter of fact, they've always gone out of their way to let the public know or let the media know that some of these Native American tribes were consisted of people they classified as Negro. They were real big on hiding that. They started to push the Red Indian myth, especially with the 5 so-called civilized tribes. The Seminoles were jet damn black. They were black folks. And they were punishing the media. I think at the time when the Seminole Wars were happening, the media, they would get fined with treason if they told the truth about the Seminoles. The Seminoles were beating the shit out of the U.S. Army. The Black Seminoles were giving them that work. The Seminoles were basically the Gullahs from South Carolina going down there into Florida. They came down. Remember, South Carolina, that's where the first foreign black people came in and blended in with the Native American tribes. They came with the Spanish. They overran the Spanish, got them out of here. They blended in and absorbed in with the Native American tribes right over there in that South Carolina area. So black people were going back and forth from South Carolina to Florida. Fort Mose, Fort Negro down there in Florida. These are who the Seminoles are. That Gullah Geechee, Seminole, all that stuff ties into each other. You understand? All of that ties into each other. And the media, they were not allowed to say that those Seminoles were Negroes. They were not allowed to do that. We know who they are because of the soldiers writing letters in the different libraries around the country. You have the white soldiers describing the people they're fighting. They're like, Mom, Dad, these niggas are beating the shit out of us. So the media couldn't say this, but if you go look at all the letters written by the white soldiers, they were like, these niggas are giving us that work. I don't know about no Native Americans, but I know these niggas are whooping our ass down here in Florida, mama. Pray for me, mama. Them Seminoles were giving them that work. Yeah, John Horse was a rider. One of the Seminole leaders, John Horse, was a rider. He went into Mexico, too. They were putting in work all along that area. You know? So again, we got to understand our history and how indigenous we are to this land. We are indigenous to this land. This is our ancestral land. Now, again, when black people did come over on some of the slave ships, but we all mixed in. They mixed in with some of the Native American tribes. And what they started to do before the Native Americans could get benefits, they started to make them expel the black folks from the tribe. This is when the $5 Indian shit came through, where white folks start paying to get on the Indian rolls. That's why in the early 1900s, all of a sudden, Indians started to whiten up. The people that you see now claiming Native American, most of them are fake as shit. Most of the peoples you see now are fake-ass Native Americans. They are not Native Americans at all. They flipped it by the Dawes Rolls. They had a census called the Dawes Rolls, where they were going to take a census for all the Native American people. And if you were Native American, you would get land allotments and all this. So all the broke white folks said, well, shit, if I scrape up $5 and I give you $5 under the table, put me down as a Native American. And that became what's known as the $5 Indian. That was a huge finesse. And that's a big finesse now. That's a big finesse now. White people claiming to be Native Americans. Get this book here, Killers of the Flower Moon. This book talks about how a whole town worked together. It was some wealthy Osage Indians in Oklahoma. They were sitting on all this oil, so they got a lot of money. So a lot of white supremacists started to marry into the families of the Osage Indians and started to kill them off. They would marry these women, and all these women started to die mysteriously. And the whole town was in on the finesse. So we don't fathom the kind of finessing that these white supremacists do. They're slick with it. Y'all don't understand how much these white supremacists be finessing. Yeah, this book is, dude, the whole white town was in on them killing off Native Americans and taking the wealth from them. They would marry into them, have kids with them, then all of a sudden the women would die because the white man done poisoned them. Then all the money goes to the white man. And he's walking around with feathers on. Well, hey, you know, shit, I'm in the tribe, so. Yeah, you see Elizabeth Warren running around talking about she's damn Native American. They love that, trying to claim Native American, because, see, they want to try to claim some form of indigenousness to this land when they're really immigrants too. You dig? They're immigrants too. But like I said, when it comes to our history, a lot of immigrant coons don't like when we talk about our history, because we have a real rich history here on our homeland, and we stay here and we defend our history and we celebrate our ancestors. And we have a reason to. And we try to keep on the lineage of our ancestors. See, that's why we're attacked so much. A lot of people, by the time they get here, they've been broken. You've been broken. You've left your ancestral connection. So now you over here trying to undermine our asses. Let's get deep with it. That's why a lot of these folks, whenever we talk about our history, they try to undermine it. And whenever we talk about reparations, notice they jump in and get offended. They jump in and try to undermine it. Just like that Lovey chick. She did a paper at her school, as according to her, should black folks get reparations? She's like, no, hell no, they shouldn't get no reparations. They don't deserve nothing. See, they can't really give props to their history because, hell, you abandoned your shit. But we in here heavy. So we didn't abandon ours, and we're right here celebrating our leaders, celebrating our foundational Black American heroes. You understand? Yes, Sarah Rector. I got that book on Sarah Rector. That was a little black girl who was mixed in with those Native American tribes. I got that book, and I talked about her. But a lot of them, they hate our history. They don't like when we start talking about the Harriet Tubmans and the Frederick Douglasses. See, they mock slavery. See, remember, we're Akatas. That's them mocking slavery. You know, they try to mock slavery. A lot of them try to mock MLK. Let's go back to the Botham Jean trial, or the Amber Geiger trial. I want y'all to notice something. When Amber Geiger was sitting up here after she killed Botham, we saw how much of a racist Amber Geiger was. Amber Geiger was tweeting, was sending messages, talking shit about black people, specifically about Dr. Martin Luther King. She was shitting on MLK, mocking him, mocking the MLK parade. And notice the family of Botham Jean was like, we forgive her. Yeah, she killed our brother, but that was a mistake. That was a mistake. So we forgive her for making a mistake. And she's making racist text messages. Well, we forgive her for that too, because she ain't talking about us. That's their mentality. Botham Jean's family, they think, well, she's talking about them niggas. MLK, that ain't us. We forgive you for talking about MLK and all your little racist texts, because you're talking about them niggas. We're not them. MLK, we don't like MLK either. We forgive you. You understand what I'm saying? That's how they think. That's why they all hugging all up on this bitch. They all hugging up on her. All that racist stuff, that didn't offend the family. Do you understand me? That didn't offend Botham's family. Like, we St. Lucian, we're dark Britons. That's how they look at themselves. They look at themselves as dark-skinned Britons. We're dark Brits. So we don't like them niggas too, Amber. Come give me can I get a hug? Because we on the same page, Amber. And we know you just killed our brother by mistake. And all that shit you said about niggas, we agree with you, bitch. Yeah, all that racist stuff, give me a hug. They agreed with her. Remember, Botham didn't hang out with black people. Botham did not hang out with black people, nor does that family hang out with black people. These folks go to a white church, Botham in there singing in the white church, you know. These folks hang with white people, so they're dark Brits. You understand? That's why they're doing all that forgiving. Because they don't identify with us and they can just take their ass back to St. Lucia. They can just go to St. Lucia. Notice when you see certain Negroes making excuses for white supremacy. We were arguing with this old mammy on Twitter about the case.